Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Wargame Red Dragon. Today, we're going to be checking out a new deck that I've made. So I believe for this one, we're going to be looking at the 74th Motor Battalion. So, this is a motorized group that I've built here. As you can see, it's got some pretty strong points as far as infantry. It's got some reasonable defense, good amount of vehicles, good amount of recon. Minimal tanks, not as many tanks as I'd like, but it's got a few. And it has decent amounts of helicopters and a few decent planes here. So the strong point of a motorized group or motor battalion is really just how quick that they are able to move about. They're in lightly armored vehicles for the most part, giving them a little bit of a cheaper cost. And as you can see, like with this infantry, they're all mostly in Humvees, and the Humvees are pretty cheap to make. So they're quick, they're fast, and they're cheap. But the actual infantry they carry can be pretty good still. As you see, I can spawn a Delta Force unit for 25 for the Delta unit, 10 for the actual Humvee itself that carries it. Their other strong points are recon and vehicles. You get some good amount of choices there, and I think America has a pretty good roster for building a motorized group. Some of their weak points will be mostly air and tanks. Just heavier armor in general is where they're going to lack a little bit. The vehicles here all have anti-tank weapons, so I have a lot of cheap anti-tanks. So it's kind of a harder build for me personally. I don't know if it's harder for most people, but I find it hard because it's just a lot of micromanaging that I have to go through. So let's go ahead and watch this replay. I'm going to be playing against a Chinese, I believe it's just a Chinese general build. There's no specialty to the build I'm fighting. Okay, so this is a replay. I'm not playing it live, so we're going to just check out how things go. I'm not sure what right now when I do replays, whether when I do videos of this game, whether I want to do live commentary or replays. Obviously, replays allows me to concentrate more on commentary and talking to you guys than on trying to come up with a strategy and make it work. But sometimes the live commentary can give rise to some interesting situations. But you can see here I've put down some Rise Pattons here. These are some cheap tanks that I have access to. I also have some scouts now, just some Humvee scouts. Nothing too crazy yet. I'm going to speed things up through the deployment phase. I don't do anything overly interesting. My main goal was to build 2 attack groups. One attack group was going to rush for Delta here, which is a +5 zone, so it's going to give me a lot more income. It's the highest income zone on this map because it's kind of a centralized one. And then I'm going to rush a group to Hotel to hold this +3 zone, just so that I have a foothold on this area as well, so that they can't, move through this this land here, across the river, and attack my my main base here. Over here, the enemy's going to do kind of the same thing, but if we just look here, you'll see I'm spawning some infantry. I didn't spawn as much infantry as I thought I was going to start off, but I have some riflemen here, some riflemen there. And these are in Humvees, as well as some anti-air, some Stinger infantry. Oh, and here we go. Slow this back down to normal speed. I also have just some anti-air in general right here. I think I have quite a few anti-air units because infantry is kind of vulnerable to the air units. As well as I don't have very good tanks, so they will get taken out pretty easily by air superiority. So I'm moving up all of my groups there and all of my groups here along this bridge. You can just kind of see, and the advantage of a battle replay is that I can actually show you close up what's going down here. You can see all these light groups here, the motorized groups moving into position. So I'm going to try and go for the town areas because being infantry, infantry is not that great out in the open, like these kind of field areas. However, once you get them inside a town, like this one here, you can get them inside of the building sections here. If I highlight, you see the little gray areas come up. You can house you can put your infantry in there, and they'll kind of garrison the buildings and stuff, and it really helps them. They're also pretty decent inside of a forest if you get them into a forest here, like so. And I think that's why I love this game. Like it's not just this large tactical view game. You can actually really get down there and see the action, which is going to be interesting to see. So I have a scout unit here. I've turned off his gun, but I'm just making sure these roads coming into hotel are secured. And then I also send another one up here into these trees to secure the ways to Delta. As you can see, though, the enemy is also moving into Delta, so it's going to be a highly sought after area. A lot of battles are going to happen in this small village. This poor village is not gonna thank us later on. The American occupation of Delta. We actually should probably give it a name. We're gonna call it. Never mind. Nothing. No names that came to mind immediately were good. In fact, some of them were racist. I was thinking about calling it orange chicken, but I actually really love Chinese food. And this is Red Dragon is actually the campaign of it is set in the east, kind of Asia area. Even though there's factions from all over the world, well, mostly Europe and Asia, and you know, you have America, Canada, and Australia too. But you can see he is moving in some tanks, some anti-tanks here. This symbol here for the BG-12 or 21-2 is an anti-tank. Then he's got a command unit here to try and capture an area. He's going to capture Alpha there. My infantry is setting up. I try and put my stingers kind of back here in the back part of the village so that they can they don't get hit immediately. They're more of like support troops, so I want them at the back of the fighting to take out enemy aircraft. But I am moving riflemen into position. I got Humvees unloading. I got tanks unloading. And things are getting quite hectic very fast for me. Even these anti-air guns are lighting up the Humvees as they come around. Over here, things are a little bit more peaceful, but he is moving up a pretty large tank group. However, these are pretty cheap Chinese tanks. They're just the ZTZs 59s. They're not particularly strong. However, they still greatly outnumber the amount of tanks I have fielded, and I do not have that great of tanks either. In fact, I only have one V150-90, which you can see here. Oh, that's not even a tank. That's just that's an anti-tank gun on just a APC. And then over here we have the M60A1 Rise Pattons, which are mid-tier-ish tanks, kind of low-tier, but they'll do their job for now. These guys should have their firing turned off, but they are pushing their tanks through the trees anyways. They've taken out my scout unit, my recon unit. I do have a rifleman unit and a Humvee unit here. I think I just put them in these dense woods just to kind of back up that. But I probably should put them here. But as you can see, there's two fronts, so I'm trying to keep track of both of them. But as you can see here, things have gotten bad. I'm pretty sure he ordered an airstrike in this area, and so now things are aflame. He's also got an infantry foothold in the town here. Only a single unit, whereas I have 2 units of riflemen, so I should be able to take them out. They shouldn't pose an overly large problem for me. See, they're shooting back and forth at each other there. And I can see a bunch of units. Actually, I think it's just because it's a battle replay. I can see all of his units, but he has a ton of units compared to me already kind of moving out. So things are not doing too good. He's got some aircraft here that keep trying to counter my aircraft whenever they come in. I think they're going to drop bombs, though, here. I might take one of them out with my anti-air. It's stunned. Radar malfunctioning. Nope. Okay, so these 2 have gotten away. Unfortunately, this is not the best anti-air gun. It's just basically a minigun. So I have some Cobras here. These are pretty tough for the price. And he is pushing his armor now through this area. He took out my tanks and anti-tanks already, so this is not going well here at Hotel. So I've moved in my fighter jets here. I think I missed most of my strikes. I'm not very good at ordering in airstrikes, mostly because you have to order in a pretty precise airstrike, and so I shoot for where... You gotta shoot for where they're going to be. So if they start moving around a whole bunch, you're gonna miss. You can change their strike area, but... it's not the best. As you can see here, I absolutely destroyed them with these Cobras. All those rockets coming at them. He's got some infantry and some armored vehicles coming out of the trees here, as well as some anti-air set up in those trees. So if I send out any of my aircraft in this direction, he's got all these PGZ-80s. He's got 3 of them here and 2 out here in this field. So I am starting to lose my grip on Delta, but I'm moving in more infantry and Humvees, as well as some more tanks just to back them up, and just some more general Humvees for fire support. Unfortunately, he has also captured Charlie at this point, so I hold Delta and Hotel and my starting place of India, but he is starting to encroach on this spot. So I really need to take Golf and Charlie, but I don't think I actually do it in this game. Luckily for me, this game, I'm playing destruction mode, so it's based off of how many enemy units you kill. So if you kill an enemy unit, you get points based on how much that unit cost. So it's a little bit different in a game. I can lose all these points and still possibly win, although obviously the +3 here and the +1 means that I'm gaining extra points to call in reinforcements, so definitely don't want to lose it. His tank column, as you can see, has pretty much wiped out everything in Hotel. I lost control of it. I am sending some infantry up and some jets and different things. I'm going to work really hard to retain control of Hotel, because if they take Hotel, they have a direct access to India, my main base. I have a pretty good death grip on Delta right now, but they are definitely pushing for it, sending in tanks, sending in infantry. They have anti-air set up on the outskirts to make sure I can't bomb Delta. I have some anti-air, but I don't have enough to really discourage his aircraft, so I'm going to take some pretty good damage when he starts sending an aircraft in, but luckily his aircraft isn't the best, and I do manage to knock 1 or 2 of them out of the sky. These riflemen here are in a pretty good position as they come down this road to use their launchers, so... And it's interesting. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the game. Obviously, everyone's going to be different. But this rifleman here, you can see in the bottom, you can see what weapons he has. So he has the M16. It shows you how many rounds he has. He also has the M72 Law, and he has 2 shots left with that. And that's kind of an anti-armor, anti-tank, anti-ground vehicle weapon. Then he also has the M60, which is really ups their firepower against other infantry. And as you can see, like, I think all the riflemen all have that same gear, but this LAD Stingers do not have the M60, but they also have a Stinger instead of the Law. So things are not going superbly well over here, but I am maintaining control. Here things, I had got some Cobras out here. I've moved in some M60 Pattons that are making kind of a push for their armor, and I was able to bomb this area pretty heavily with my aircraft. I do have a bit of air superiority at this point. My aircraft, I have more aircraft, better aircraft. Unfortunately, he does have more anti-air set up on the field, so I have to be really careful about where I send them in. But you can see he's pushing some very huge stacks of these cheap tanks. He's sending lots and lots of cheap units in at me. Boom. Ah, this game is so cool. So really, the rest of this battle, like, I'm not going to lie to you, the rest of the battle comes down to Delta and Hotel. It's kind of a war for these 2 places. I think I do eventually take Golf, but I don't really push into Charlie too hard or any other pushes. And I find that this game mode kind of, for me anyways, when I play Destruction, I tend to rush. Oh, geez, that doesn't help. There's too many enemy units, but I tend to rush for the middle points quickly in Destruction, then set up a really good defense, and then I start taking the points that I've left behind. This allows me to capture the regions where I'm going to get a lot of points, be able to spawn a lot of units, but I mostly just play defensively, though, once I've done that initial kind of quick charge. Because there's no use really pushing, because if you push, you're likely to lose more units than if you're defending. Although that's not always true. But as you can see now, he is starting to swamp my men here. I was spending a lot of points trying to retake this area. And he does have he has some really cheap stuff he can send at me. So I'm going to take Hotel back pretty soon now. I've managed to take most of the tanks out. He's just got a few infantry and a few reinforcements coming. But it's now at Delta where the major fighting, as you see, is happening. It's gotten so bad that even these anti-air guns are letting off with their little miniguns here. I have some tanks here coming through the woods, trying to seal off this road, because he's got some tanks that have come through this area. They're pretty cheap tanks, and as you can see, I am taking them out. But you have lack of visibility inside of the trees. So, and he launched a bunch of smoke at me, which was really smart on his part. You can use artillery to launch either regular shells or smoke artillery or smoke shells. So this really reduces my visibility, and I don't have any recon units up here. I've lost my recon. So even though we can see every unit currently, when I was playing it, all I could see was maybe like this tank, maybe this guy coming through. So I had to be very careful. So I have like my tanks and armor set up kind of around the side of this village, so they have to go around or come through this road, and then they'll open fire. But if I put my tanks out in this open spot, sure, I'd be able to start shooting at all this stuff coming at me, but they would too. I'd be more likely to lose it. This way they have to funnel their way through before they'll see me, and they only get a limited amount through before my Pattons start shooting at them. So I do have a strategy going on here. I'm trying to do kind of the same thing here with these, but I only have a few tanks left. Back over here, you can see that I've managed to get a single group of, I think, riflemen. I think these are riflemen. Yeah, I think I got some riflemen up there. They're going to unload. Yeah, and they're now inside the town. He does have an SU-100 coming along, and he starts hitting my Pattons with some heavy artillery. I'm not sure where the artillery is actually coming from. I don't see it on the map. I don't know. He's got so many units spammed that I can't really see it. And believe it or not, you look at this and you think I'm losing, but if you look over here, the top score is me, and the bottom score is the computer. So he is just throwing a ton of stuff at me in these small groups, small cheap groups, one at a time. It is computer. I'm not playing against a player right now. I'm still trying to learn the game a little bit better before I really invest in playing against other players, because from what I've seen, other players that play online are pretty good. But you can see that numbers aren't always, quantity isn't always quality, which is an odd thing to say for me, who's playing a motorized build, because I'm supposed to be kind of throwing a quantity or a quality, or Jesus, I cannot do English today. I'm trying to throw a quantity of infantry and motorized groups into these towns, but mostly I'm sending a few infantry in, holding the area, and then tanks. I rely a lot on tanks. Oh, you can see these aircraft are kind of shooting at each other now. I ordered an attack pattern here on the edge of town, and so he sent out his jets to kind of stop mine. Unfortunately, this Hornet, which I think is my most expensive unit, flies on a really large path, and he's kind of getting behind enemy lines. I think he might get shot down. Nope, he's not. Okay, he got out of there safely. But you can see there's still a pretty good fight going on for Hotel. I managed to get a command unit in it, so now I am in control. But he has a lot of these SU-100s kind of moving around in this area. So he's got a lot of anti-tank units, but these are these are ancient light tank units. These were tanks during World War II, so he's not going to do particularly well. I even have a Cobra here. I think it's out of, yeah, it just ran out of its rockets, so it's not going to be able to do a whole lot. And I was an idiot, and I left these Pattons here to get hit by artillery again. I should have moved them up or around or something. And I finally captured Golf, it looks like. I can't really commentate on what my enemy's doing to a large degree, because he's just got such a huge amount of units coming at me now. He does have more income, I think. He doesn't have Foxtrot, though, so maybe not. So he's got 3 here. 3, 1, so that's 7. He's got 7 plus 4, so he's got 11 income at this point in time. And I have 5 from Delta, 4 from India. Oh, I have 13. Okay, so I actually am outproducing him now. So that's why it's so important to go for this middle point, because Delta's worth 5 points, so it's basically worth Alpha and Charlie combined almost. So it's pretty important to hold this point if you can. And even though he's, it looks like he's starting to overwhelm my forces, I still have my command unit. I still control this area. And I've got my backup artillery, or my tanks here, my armor. And I still have another unit of riflemen holding the edge of the village. So I am sending a large amount of reinforcements over here pretty soon. You can see my reinforcements spawning. But I also wanted to make sure that I had a foothold in Hotel. Originally, I didn't think he'd even come for Hotel, and I'd just be able to hold it and focus in on this side of the map. But as it turns out, I was fighting a two-sided war against an enemy that outnumbered me greatly. he starts spawning in a lot of helicopters here. So I did get a Vulcan in. Another one of these cheap anti-air units. They're pretty good against helicopters, not quite as good against aircraft. But you can see he's letting loose, trying to take out some of my armor with those. But I have got some more armor now in here, some more patents. And I have a Delta Force unit. And I think where are they even at? I have Delta Force here. I think I left them in the field too long, though. I forgot they were even there, so I've moved them in. And they're interesting because they have MP5s. And I think MP5s make it so they're really good in close quarters combat. So building to building, they're going to be really good. But they're not quite as effective at long range, but they're still an elite unit. So it goes militia, regular, elite, or no. Militia, regular, shock, and elite units in this game as far as infantry is concerned. So they are the best of the best. They have an M60, which also help them against infantry. And they have an M27 Law to help against vehicles. And I'm ordering some pretty big airstrikes now still. I still have air superiority, but he does start to have a lot of these anti-air units to kind of take that out. Back over on this side, you see kind of the same thing happening. We have not too much more time left, but I am going to just speed it up. You can see from the score I am winning. It's not a huge lead, but I am winning the battle for the majority. I have about 900 more points than him, somewhere around that range. And the rest of the battle really goes the same way, so I won't try and go really in depth with it, but you can just see that there's a fight going on in Delta. You know, that's a continuous thing going on. He's got some special forces in there now. And I'm just kind of barely hanging on to it, but I do start taking out a lot of his units. And since I am playing more defensively than him, he's kind of rushing units forward. Oh shit, I think this Humvee gets taken out though. Maybe not. Oh, nope. I think I do destroy it actually. Yeah, I had a pretty good timed airstrike here to take out the enemies because they were going for my command unit here, which was unfortunate. I'm finally getting some supply vehicles up here. I've got a Hemet moved up, and you can see their area there. They'll be able to resupply people with ammunition there. And I sent another Hemet in here. So things are not going strictly great for me, but I am winning overall just because I'm taking out so many of their units. Even if they're able to spawn them back and push me, I'm still taking a ton of them with me as I go. So yeah, you can just see like the numbers here in this village. Like they have infantry in almost every single sector here now. And I think they have anti-air units. Only one. Well, they have a second one here. So I probably could start bombing this area pretty... Oh, I do. That's funny that I started thinking that same thought just as Dust in the Future did. Oh, and there we go. There's a victory. I dislike how this game just kind of like jumps to the victory screen. Like it doesn't like say victory on the other screen and would you like to leave the match or something. But yep, this is the victory screen. You can see I got 3,005 kills. He got 1,910. So I did end up winning because you just need 3,000 kills in the game mode that we were playing to win. Points. That's not just like how many things you kill. That counts as points. So, you know, you kill a cheap tank, you get less points than if you kill a stronger tank. And you can see some of the stuff here. Lapse time took 21 minutes. Major victory. Yeah, so pretty good stuff here. I was kind of proud of myself because I normally play armor or mechanized because they have a little bit more... they're a little bit tougher. I don't know what's the best way to put it. But, you know, mechanized units are using APCs versus, you know, just motorized vehicles like Humvees. So they're a little bit more heavily armored. And obviously armor is easy because you just get some heavy tanks and roll through them until they send other things. But that's what I really like about this game. You can always defeat any unit pretty easily if you have the right stuff to do it. But anyways, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this game. I really enjoy Wargame. Besides The Division, this is the game I'm playing the most right now, as well as some Total War. But I hope you guys have enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.